You are seeing this. We are seeing this too. There you can see it's a object.
My God, this is extraordinary. Okay, if you are watching this, if you are seeing this, you are not alone.
So the movie opens at a wrestling match. In the crowd, a man named Daniel is sitting with a bag held tight in his hands. The man behind him leans in and tells him to hand it over. Daniel asks where his girlfriend Jane is. The woman sitting next to him pulls out a gun. She takes the bag and walks away. When Daniel's captors go through it, they find a collection of memory drives and documents. Daniel gets brought before the man in charge, a man named Noah Scanlon. Jean is handed back over to Daniel, but Noah wants something in return. He wants names. He wants to know who turned Daniel against them. Then, his men find something else buried deep in the bag. Noah pulls on a pair of gloves before he even touches it. At the same moment, Daniel quietly slips on a glove of his own. The device actually belongs to Noah, and Daniel knows it. Noah immediately tells his men to hold their fire, because one shot could set it off. He tells Daniel to loosen his grip, so nothing happens. Daniel has no real idea how to operate it, but he has watched Noah handle it enough times to know what to do with it. Noah grabs Jane and gets into a car with his men, and prepares to leave. He tells Daniel that history has no reset button. If he does this, there is no undoing it. Then, Noah drives away. Jane has no idea what she just watched happen. Daniel calls a man named Hugo and asks where he should bring the device. Hugo refuses to tell him. He says Daniel has to carry it to a secure location himself, and that this was never part of the original plan. Daniel tells him he is not a field operative. Hugo tells him to stay on the line and keep moving. Hugo is waiting for something to activate, and Daniel is going to have to get through the night on his own. Hugo's man Santiago will meet him in the morning. After the call, Daniel smashes his satellite phone. Jane doesn't know what Daniel does for a living, but she knows somewhere they can go. On the other side of the city, Noah arrives at his company, Wardex Corporation. Every person inside is hunting for Daniel, and Daniel has worked for this very company for the past 8 years. Today, 11 other employees also failed to show up. No one knows the fact that Daniel hasn't gone public yet means someone above him is pulling strings he doesn't know about. Daniel holds a doctorate in theoretical and applied cybersecurity. He built every firewall in that building with his own hands. Then Noah's man Boyd tells him that Hugo didn't come in either, and his desk has been completely cleared out. And from deep storage, the second of their 3 devices has gone in missing. Jane takes Daniel to a monastery. A nun there knows her well. The two of them talk, and Daniel gradually realizes that Jane is a nun. She is a novitiate, which means she is on the verge of taking her vows. Both of them have been keeping things from each other. Jane asks Daniel what he stole and why. He tells her that 8 years ago he was in prison. He served 19 months for cybercrime, and the moment he got out, Wardex hired him. 3 months ago, he found something enormous inside the company's systems. He believes what he took belongs to every person alive. Somewhere else, a local weather reporter named Margaret is at work doing a segment she has no interest in doing. She wants to cover real stories. Then a cardinal bird lands on her desk. She watches it closely, and something shifts. Margaret starts speaking fluent Russian. She does not speak Russian. Her clanker Jackson is startled and slaps the desk to snap her out of it. She stops. She goes back to speaking English and has no memory of any of it. She heads out for the day. Driving too fast, she gets pulled over by a police officer. He asks for her license and registration and tells her to step out of the car. Margaret is running late. She looks directly into the officer's eyes and starts telling him about his wife Anna, about the things she said to him that she didn't mean, about the baby keeping her up all night, about the red velvet cupcakes he is thinking of bringing home to her. The officer stares at her. She drives off. At work, she speaks fluent Korean to a visitor nobody could communicate with. She does not speak Korean either. Then, during her weather report, she stops mid-sentence and starts making strange sounds that don't belong to any language anyone in the room recognizes. The camera cuts away. Margaret collapses right there at the desk. Daniel leaves Jane at the monastery and starts moving with Santiago, but Jane won't stay behind. She goes with him. Wardex vehicles pass close by on the roads searching for Daniel. Back at Wardex, a military general tells Noah that this is the worst security breach in the organization's history. Noah refuses to bring in the FBI. He wants Daniel found internally. Then he watches the clip of Margaret making those sounds. It has already gone viral. His team runs the audio against their own archives and finds a match. The sounds correspond to a dialect in their records. Now they have to find Margaret before Hugo does. Margaret is in a hospital getting scans done. Everything comes back normal. Two men arrive at her room claiming to be FBI. Margaret looks at them and immediately knows they are not. The doctor asks her about a traumatic event from her childhood when she was 10 years old. Margaret has no memory of it. Jackson tells the doctor she still has dreams connected to it. A butterfly and a house like the one from Hansel and Gretel deep in a forest. Margaret gets angry at Jackson for sharing that. Then she looks at the fake FBI man again and starts saying Daniel's name out loud. She grabs Jackson and they leave. Daniel and Jane reach a safe house. Outside, a group of deer are all standing still and looking directly at Daniel. Jane asks him to tell her everything. He pulls out a drive and plays a video from 1973 showing a Florida Air Force facility. President Nixon is walking a famous television personality through the building. In the chambers inside, there are aliens being held. Daniel plays another video. In it, they are experimenting on a living alien. The alien is screaming. Jane watches it and starts to cry. Daniel tells her this has been going on for 79 years, and he has all the footage. Noah picks up the one device still in his possession. He sits down, holds it with his bare hand, and looks at a photo on the screen in front of him. Doing this causes him serious pain. He sees something for just a split second. Boyd tells him that the people these devices connect to are experiencers, and you cannot force a connection with them directly. So Noah decides he is going to try it on Jane instead. Daniel tells Jane what Wardex and the Department of Defense have been doing with the alien technology they recovered. They have been reverse engineering it to develop their own advancements in secret. Most of the government doesn't even know. Most presidents never knew. He is about to tell the whole world. Jane pushes back hard. When ordinary people find out, the consequences will be enormous. People will abandon their faith and turn toward these beings as if they are gods. When people learn that the things they have been calling supreme beings are real and physical, it will wreck something fundamental. Daniel doesn't stop. He walks outside with his bag, looking for a signal to call Hugo. Meanwhile, Hugo calls Margaret directly. He says he is a friend. He tells her to follow whatever direction comes into her mind naturally. He tells her to destroy her phone. She does. She tells Jackson the direction she feels and says to just drive that way. Noah takes Jean's photo and attempts to use the device to connect with her mind. Hugo sends Daniel a video of Margaret making those sounds. Daniel watches it and understands every word without any effort. To him, it is plain English. She is saying, "Don't be afraid of what you don't know." Hugo tells Daniel to go to Margaret in Kansas City. He says there are two of you, and there have always been just the two of you. Out in the field, where Daniel is standing, the crops flatten on their own and form a shape on the ground. The device in Noah's hand starts to glow. He gets into Jane's mind. Whatever he does, she mirrors. Jane starts to pray. Noah appears in her vision and asks for her location. She drives a cross into her own hand, trying to break his hold. She hurts herself, and his grip slips for a moment. But Noah asks again, "Which direction did you drive? What did you pass? What street signs did you see?" His team works from her answers and pins down the exact location. He sends his men straight there. He also tells Jane that if they don't find Daniel, she will need to stop him herself. Jane stabs her hand again. Then Margaret grabs Jackson's phone and calls Daniel. She tells him Noah is in Jane's mind right now, and they know exactly where he is. Get away from the house. Jackson takes the phone back. Daniel already sees Wardex vehicles pulling up outside. He is outside, so he stays low, flanks them, takes one of their vehicles, drives it to the safe house, gets Jane into the car, and drives. Wardex vehicles chase them. In the backseat, Jane starts coming at Daniel with a knife. She fights Noah's control and drives the knife into her own hand. His hold breaks, and Noah, having pushed too hard for too long, collapses. One of his men accidentally touches the device and turns completely invisible. When he drops it, he becomes visible again. Daniel and Jane get ahead of the Wardex cars and reach the edge of a ravine. They put a rock on the accelerator and send the car down into the water. Wardex arrives and assumes they jumped in to escape. Daniel and Jane slip away on foot. Jackson can't process what is happening with Margaret. She reads his thoughts back to him word for word to convince him to stay with her. She can feel that Daniel is east of them. Jackson steps away and calls the doctor and gives away their location. When he comes back, Margaret is already gone. Daniel calls Hugo and tells him things are coming back to him. Animals used to look at him the same way the deer did at the Safehouse. He asks if there was a specific reason he was recruited to Wardex beyond his skills in cybersecurity. Hugo says he has a job to do. Daniel tells him a portion of his childhood is simply missing from his memory, no matter how hard he tries to reach it. Hugo tells him not to be afraid and to get to Kansas City tomorrow, no matter what happens. That night, Daniel hides everything with the motel's name on it and shows Jane the video of Margaret's sounds. He asks if she understands any of it. He tells her the sounds work in his mind like math that translates directly into English, and that those same sounds are how mathematical equations have always appeared to him. Jane asks Daniel to tie her hands before they sleep. During the night, Jane wakes up under Noah's control. She scans the room for the motel name and finds it on a paper in Daniel's hand. Hugo sends his men to the location, but Santiago gets there first and spots the Wardex men arriving. Daniel wakes Jane and gets her out through the bathroom. He gives her the device and tells her not to touch it under any circumstances. The Wardex men take Daniel but find nothing on him. They bring him to Noah. All the drives and documents are now back in Noah's hands. He just wants the names and the full scope of Hugo's plan. Then Margaret walks into the facility. She looks into people's eyes, and whatever she sees there, she uses against them. She turns their own thoughts and associations on them. She walks straight through to Noah and Daniel. The moment Noah grabs Margaret, she shows him his own wife standing there in her place. He freezes. She walks up to Daniel calmly. Every agent who tries to stop them on the way out sees someone they love standing in front of them. Nobody raises a hand. They walk out of the building. Daniel asks what just happened. Margaret tells him she can look at people and know everything about them, their emotions, their physical pain, their memories. It all started after she saw that bird. Daniel asks if it was a cardinal. When Daniel was 20 years old, he saw that same bird. Right after that, he became capable of mathematics at a level he had never approached before. Just then, a train crosses in front of them, and Boyd comes from behind and starts ramming their car into the tracks. The car gets clipped by the train and dragged forward. Daniel and Margaret climb out through the front window. A second train is coming from the other direction. Boyd is beside them, firing. Daniel gets on top of the train. Margaret is still below and jumps at the last second and grabs his hand. They get inside the cargo train. Margaret starts shaking badly. She feels as if she is losing sensation in her hands and fears she is developing the same Parkinson's disease her father had. Daniel stays with her until she calms down. It was a panic attack. Hugo senses something and tells everyone around him to clear out. Noah pushes into Hugo's mind and asks him directly, was Daniel an experiencer? Did something called In Vivo 17 tell you to recruit him? Hugo confirms it. Noah warns him that whatever this plan is, it serves the aliens, not them. Noah worked out that Hugo was the one who helped an alien escape 5 years ago. He tells Hugo that Wardex was built specifically to contain this truth because the human race is not ready for it. It will destroy every established structure in the world. That is what Noah has spent 35 years protecting. Hugo says all he has protected is his own power. He has suppressed and dismissed everyone who ever witnessed something real. Now Hugo is going to end 79 years of it. Jane calls the nun from the monastery and asks her a question. Does God love only humanity because we are the supreme creation? The nun tells her that humanity is only supreme on this planet. She has always believed the universe is too vast for us to be the only ones in it. She asks Jane what she is really afraid of. Jane asks whether people's faith would collapse if they learned they were not alone. The nun says she is not doubting God, she is doubting people. Out in the field, where Daniel and Margaret are moving, a fox stops and stands directly in front of them. Then, fire trucks arrive. Hugo's men, confirmed by eye scan. They get in and drive to Hugo's location. Margaret already knows every person's name there without being introduced. They pull up to a building and Margaret stops. It is a full recreation of her childhood home, built exactly as she remembered it, down to the photos and furniture inside her room. Hugo explains that he built it so she could remember something, a blocked memory from when she was 10 years old, a night when she and Daniel were together. Margaret says she doesn't want to remember that night. Hugo tells her that only by recovering that memory will she understand what she is supposed to do. She won't be a passenger anymore. The aliens gave both of them their abilities. Daniel's gift for mathematics was so he could understand the aliens. Margaret's ability with language was so she could understand humanity. Hugo gives Margaret a device of her own. When she and Daniel hold it between their hands together, her memory starts to come back. She was 10 years old. Animals came into her room in the night and looked at her. The cardinal bird was among them. They followed them into the forest and found the Hansel and Gretel house. She went inside. It was a ship. The animals became aliens, and baby Daniel was already inside, sitting with her. The two of them held hands. And in that moment, with these devices, they were given everything they now carry. Daniel lets go, but Margaret uses the device again on her own and reaches further into it than before. Then she looks into Hugo's eyes for the first time and takes everything he knows into herself. Wardex vehicles arrive outside. Margaret uses the device. When the Wardex team comes through the doors, they see nothing. Margaret has turned everyone invisible, but the Wardex operatives have heat tracking equipment. They can see the outlines of people right in front of them, and they can see the glowing device. Everyone has to move now while they still can. They get to the fire truck, which is also invisible. All of them get inside and leave. The Wardex commandos walk straight into the invisible house. The device burns out from overuse shortly after. Margaret walks into the KCXE news studio with everyone. This is where they are going to go live and tell the world. Margaret's abilities make every person in the building cooperative without any resistance. Hugo goes to the loading dock. Daniel gets into the control room and uploads all the video files from the drives onto the studio's server. Then Wardex arrives outside. They move to cut the power and shut down the backup generator. The moment Margaret steps in front of the camera and the broadcast begins, everything goes dark. Both the main power and the emergency generator go out at the same time. Noah walks into the studio. Jane comes in behind him and passes the device to Margaret. Margaret uses it to bring the power back. She looks into Noah's eyes and quietly sits him down in a chair. Boyd looks at what just happened and takes the rest of the Wardex men and leaves. Daniel arranges a live connection to the New York studio so the feed can go everywhere at once. The broadcast begins. Margaret tells the world everything about Wardex and what the government has been hiding for nearly 8 decades. The videos play. An alien craft approaching and departing from an Air Force base. The other news networks pick it up immediately. Anchors raise questions about whether the footage is real or generated, but the images are already spreading to every channel in the world. The footage documents 2 crashes, the first on July 7, 1947 in Mexico, in which many aliens were injured, the second in 1965, from which more aliens emerged. The world watches footage of the aliens being walked by soldiers into military facilities. Then, Hugo brings a living alien into the studio. The alien opens its eyes and looks at Daniel and Margaret. The entire world watching the broadcast goes still. The alien speaks quietly into Daniel's ear. Daniel listens. He translates it for Margaret, and Margaret turns back to the camera and begins to speak. And with that, friends, this story comes to an end. Tell us in comment how you liked the explanation. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Real Dreams Movie Recaps.